Welcome back to another session where we're discussing Service Advisor 101. Now, at this stage, we're moving on to element 2, and let me just share my screen and show you exactly what we're going to be discussing today. So we're moving on to page 8, and on page 8, it starts off with element 2, reverse engineer. So it says in the top that reverse engineering is the art of picturing where you want to end up and then designing a plan to get there. So to do that, I've brought up the topic of DISC personality profiling. So high-performing service advisors are masters at identifying DISC personality profiles. Now, DISC is how you spell DISC. DISC personality profiling is a game changer for service advisors. Have you ever wanted to be able to know how to communicate more efficiently and effectively with other humans? DISC is the answer. I have covered DISC profiling in many sessions through the years, but let me assure you, it's not something that you just learn once and you have it. It's something that you must constantly practice and then master. Being able to identify yourself first is critical. Are you dominant, influencing, steady, or conscientious in nature? Now, dominant starting with D, influencing starting with the letter I, steady starting with the letter S, and conscientious starting with the letter C makes up the 4 letters. A DISC assessment will help you to identify your personality profile. If you don't understand your personal profile, you simply can't understand the profile of others. High-performing service advisors have mastered the ability to identify the individual in front of them within seconds and then reverse engineer the conversation to satisfy the DISC style. When I was first introduced to DISC personality profiling as a service advisor, it totally changed my perspective of other people. It was like a removal of the fog. I could communicate clearly with the profile presented. Now, I have a basic DISC assessment on my website if you want to try that out. Go to kieranstack.com and you will find it there. So let me talk about this one. Guys, I first came across DISC personality profiling when I was a service advisor at BMW Group in 2015. And I went to my training and they did 2 days training on DISC personality profiling. Now, I thought I knew a lot about people and I've been interacting with people for a long time. But when I came across DISC, I'm like, where has this been all my life? It was like this, as I said in the piece, it was like a removal of the fog, and you could see people and you could put potentially a label on people and go, right, that I'm dealing with a D personality, an I personality, an S personality, or a C personality. Now, just a caveat on that, everybody is not recognizable straight away. I will still struggle with a couple of different people, but I will recognize people and be able to mark them or label them as a D, an I, or S, or a C as their primary style within seconds. That's it. I'll also be able to put a secondary label on them as well, be it a DI, an IS, an SC. It depends on what they're projecting. So all in all, guys, what we're doing here is we're picking up on the cues and clues that a customer is projecting by how they walk, by how they talk, by what they drive, by what they say, by how they interact with you, just the vibe and overall personality that they're projecting. Now, this personality that they're projecting can be marked as a D for dominant, I for influencing, S for steady, or C for conscientious. It depends on their style. Now, the thing about the style that they're projecting as well is that the DISC theory helps you recognize that not everyone is the exact same, and that, well, just because they're projecting different things, their buying styles, their values, their care factor for other people, their level of empathy will all be different based on what they're projecting. And if you ever come across a service advisor or a colleague that says, oh, I treat everyone the same, well, I'd like to say you don't, but you probably do, and you're probably not effective. You're probably not as effective as you think you are. Being able to identify a DISC personality profile and then adapting yourself to the person in front of you is the superpower of all superpowers that service advisors need. You need to help someone like you because people like people who are like themselves. And if you can, in many ways, wear a mask that's similar to what the customer is wearing, they will like you more because you're projecting styles that are very similar to them. Now, this is quite high level stuff, guys. It's quite advanced, but I can promise you, within a couple of hours of training and then with a couple of days of application, you will start to reap the rewards of DISC personality profiling. I implore you to check it out. I implore you to consider applying it to your service advisor toolbox, if you will, because it's the number one training that I've ever done to accelerate me in my role as a service advisor. Now, I've just given you a quick overview. And what I do with people as well, guys, is I will give them examples of 4 different types of birds. And if I was to use the word, if I was to say the bird, an eagle, would an eagle be a dominant and influencing, a steady, or a conscientious bird in nature? And we all can recognize eagles as being a dominant bird. They're an aggressor, they're king of the sky, they're the ones that are in charge, they take no prisoners, they don't like you. Okay, that's an eagle. So if I was to ask you what letter or which of the words that are left, influencing, steady, or conscientious, a peacock would be projecting. Would it be influencing, steady, or conscientious? A peacock is colorful, is a hey look at me kind of a bird, is one that is a bit of a show pony, is one that is its favorite topic of conversation, if you will. Another bird I use in this regard is a parrot, and a parrot is colorful, it's chatty, its favorite topic of conversation is itself, and that would definitely be marked as an influencing type of bird. From there, we've got 2 different types left. We've got steady and conscientious. And when we think of steady, we think of more of a slower paced individual, more of a caring individual. And when we think of a bird that matches towards that, I like to think of a dove. A dove projects love. A dove projects peace. A dove projects care and empathy. And that's what an S style individual would also be. And then finally, I've got an owl, and an owl is quite conscientious. It's quite wise. It's quite articulate. It's quite, again, I've never met an owl in the flesh, but how it's projected in film and in TV and in kids' cartoons, it's quite a wise bird. And conscientious individuals are slower paced individuals that project a high level of wisdom, and they're very particular in how they decide to process information. So dominant, influencing, steady, and conscientious. An eagle, a peacock, a dove, and an owl are 4 examples that I try to simplify this, guys. If you've done DISC personality profiling in the past and you can't recognize yourself, and you don't remember what style was projected or what appeared for you, I can promise you that you don't know DISC well enough. Like I've said here, you cannot just do DISC once and go, yeah, I did a DISC training back in 2018. It's not about doing the training. It's about applying the training to what you do on a daily basis and being able to recognize a dominant, influencing, steady, or conscientious individual in front of you and then adapting yourself to the person in front of you is your superpower. You will win hearts and minds. You will connect on an emotional level. You will adapt to their buying style. You will adapt to their buying motives. You will adapt to their speed. You will adapt to their level of care and desire to be interacted with. That's a superpower, guys, and I implore you to consider it. As I said, I have a basic DISC assessment on my website. If you want to check it out, try it for free, and see what you think. See what it returns up for you. That's it for today, guys. Other than that, my apologies. We will scroll to the bottom, and we'll do a quick reflection on that one. And the reflection is: how do you rate your ability to identify a customer's personality profile? If you've never even heard of personality profiling in the past, well, you're going to struggle, right? But the more you expose yourself to this information, you could master this. And I promise you, you will be able to see through people and go, right, I'm dealing with a fast-paced, task-focused individual, which is a D, and I need to get this guy in and out as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to shake my hand. He doesn't want to connect with me on an emotional level. He doesn't want me to ask him about his weekend. He doesn't want to find out who I am or what I'm about. He wants to get in and he wants to get out. And these cues and clues are there, but you need to know what to recognize, guys. And then what are 3 things that you could do today to increase your rating? First one would be to try out that DISC assessment on my website. And from there, read a little bit more about it. There is a book out there called Surrounded by Idiots. It's quite a fascinating book, and I would implore you to consider reading it. And it allows you to identify the 4 different types of human behavior and how to interact with them. Again, it's called Surrounded by Idiots, I guess, for effect and to help you pick it up off the shelf and consider reading it. But I implore you to try and get your head around it, because it's not rocket science. It really isn't. And perhaps in future sessions, we may even demystify it even further. Other than that, thanks for joining me again today, guys, and I will see you on the next lesson.